Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Avalanche podcast, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. We got Eric and Rudo coming to you live on a Wednesday. We'll be joined very shortly here by Peter Budaj, the ex-Avalanche goaltender, now NHL goaltending coach. First of all, why do all of the goaltenders in the U.S. come from the East Coast?
There he is. Speaking of goalies.
Yep.
Come from the East Coast? Yeah, because they're, great people. Boots, my son, everyone, you know what I mean? I blame Boots all the time for my son being a goalie, so he freaking, you know what it is? It's the gear. Kids always, they see the gear, they get so excited, they get, their eyes light up, and then next thing you know, they want to be a goalie. So I blame Boots all the time for having
It's not my fault.
But it's your fault. It's always been your fault. But yeah,
I just pushed it a little bit. I always tell it's so funny that you say that. I always tell the parents of the players that whenever kids comes, you're like, hey, you want to see my gear? Kids get so excited, and then they're hooked right after it. It's over.
Making life way more expensive for the kids. Got it.
Yeah.
Peter, thank you for joining us on the show today. Obviously, goaltending, kind of its own little world in the sport of hockey. Can you just start with what convinced you to become a goaltender in the first place?
Thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, guys. It's kind of a funny story. I always want to be a goalie. I always wanted to be a goalie since I was a kid. My dad never played hockey. I mean, we come from small country, so we watched hockey. We had solid hockey players, and hockey and soccer was two big sports. And since I was a kid, I remember I was 4 years old, maybe 5. I was watching Canada versus Russia game, Soviet Union back then. And I told my dad after the game that I want to be a goalie and play in Canada, playing NHL. And my dad is like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. So, but he grabbed me and put me on skates, started learning, and I literally went right to net. I never wanted to play out. I think I played out maybe one game when they told me that I have to leave and somebody else has to try. And, I think we were 8 years old. And I actually thought I had a decent game as a player. My dad even said, you were good. You scored a goal and, and I'm like, yeah, but I didn't like it. I didn't enjoy it. So I went back to net and even right now after I retire, I still kind of wanted to play whenever I had a chance.
Amazing. You've long time been with the Avalanche, both as a player and you were in the organization as a coach until just recently as you've graduated to the NHL. So first of all, congratulations there. And I guess, obviously, other than not playing, how is that transition between being the guy in net and teaching guys in net?
Yeah, it's very different. My first year as a coaching a few years ago was a very different experience because, you experienced it as a player looking from a dressing room and having the coach's room the other side. And you look at the game differently. As a coaching staff, you have to learn certain things. You obviously don't have the power to change anything during the game. That's a very difficult part, especially as a player. When you play, and I think Eric can back me up on that, you kind of know, you're on a bench, you can play, you can do some changes if you see something's not working. As a coach, usually as a goaltender coach, you kind of sitting upstairs in the stands and just kind of have your notebook and just man, oh, goodness gracious, or oh, that was a big chance. Oh, we got to do better stuff on the power. But you're kind of powerless out there during the game. But those experiences helps you to go to the, goalie and try to talk to him, try to teach him, give him your experiences that, I've accumulated over the career. And I think right now with the 21st century, I think it's very important to not just be a coach, but also kind of understand the personality of the kid. I think it's very important because every kid learns a different way, and having and build that trust between the goaltending coach and the player is very important. If you trust the coach, you're going to start, be more open to coaching. If you're just doing the stuff because coach told you so, first sign of, kind of a stress situation or a pressure or trouble, you're going to kind of revert to what you believed in. But if you trust your coach and you have a good relationship off the ice, I think it really helps the coaching part to teach the kids the right way.
Question for you. We're going to jump a little bit left to right. I'm going to go right to it. And I know you don't work with them anymore, but Justus, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of Justus. And I know you worked hard with him the last couple. And Rudo is too. Rudo's a fan of Justus. But I know you worked hard with him the last few seasons. Do you believe he's ready this year to take a big step? Last year, got his feet wet, right? Only a few games. Did well, obviously, especially after the trade deadline. But what do you expect from him this year, for Justus and coming into the NHL, really as his first full season as a real backup or maybe more?
Yeah, definitely. I think, for past few years, Justus get called up a couple of times. And, obviously, how it is when you get called up as a goalie is a little different than a player. But he ended up being in NHL, making good strides last year, and he got his feet wet, as you said. This year is going to be difficult for him, and not for playing wise, but from his mental standpoint of view. Last year was kind of like he got called up to finish up the season. Now he's an NHL player. Now he's full-time NHLer. It comes with different challenges, but I think he's ready. I think he's able to make a step. And if you look over his career, like, he definitely is growing every year wherever he was. Every year he gets better and better and better. He's one of the hardest working guys, probably one of the strongest goalies I've ever met. And he's in great shape. He works really hard, and it's going to be up to him to, being able to play whenever you get the chance to play, and battle to stay in net as long as possible. Obviously, Georgie's going to be the number one, I would assume, and I don't know what they're going to do, but Justus has a great potential. I think he's a student of the game. I think his personality is really good. He's very even keel, like you can see on his body language and demeanor. He's very even keel. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I think he knows what he has to do. But I think he can have a very solid year, in my opinion, because he's more used to the NHL speed, NHL players, NHL mindset. I think that's a big difference between when you call up a player and a goalie, in my opinion. Obviously, I've never played out up front, but as a goalie, if you get called up from minors, it doesn't matter how good you're playing in minors. In NHL, the game is very different. Not just the execution is faster. Players make you pay for every little mistake you make. So him having the half of the year up with the Avs can really help him get used to everything. And I think you guys, the Avalanche, have a good solid goalie in their uniform. So that's good.
Definitely good to hear about Annunen. There's been, over the last couple of years, a lot of conversation around Colorado and honestly around the league about goaltender workload. As a goalie, and then also as a goalie coach, what's the right number of starts for an NHL starter?
It's a very tough question. Very tough question that you give me, because it is very, Eric played with Patrick. Patrick would want to play every single game, right? Mary Brodeur would play every single game. Andrei Vasilevsky, I don't know. I think he hit 70 games a few years ago or something like that. I don't know exactly. Like, he wants to play every game. So it goes differently from a goalie standpoint of view to a goalie. Like, you have goalies that can play, they're physically ready and especially mentally ready. I think the mental aspect of the game is very, very difficult. With the goaltender, certain goalies needs that little one game in between a long stretch period of time to kind of like recoup and get back to it. So some guys don't. Some guys need to play more to play better. Some guys need to, that's why you have goalies that have been tremendous backup goalies and they couldn't be starters, and vice versa. They were really good starters and they couldn't be backups. It comes from personality and mindset. I think that's the hard part for coaching staff in general, to figure out the right way. But I think you do need, the game is faster. The game is quicker than when we used to play. The guys are machines at age, I don't know, 17. They have skating coaching and power coaching and skill coaches since they're I don't know, 6 years old, which is ridiculous. But so the game, it's very skill, and it's very lateral. It's a very east-west game. So that's very different than it used to be. It used to be north-south, up and down shots, crash to net, traffic, big bodies. Now the game is more poised. Like everybody cuts across the blue line. Everybody do the button hooks, the Gretzky curls, and go back doors, and and you have guys that can do those things like in a split second, like they can thread the needle on a pass all the time. So that's why the game's more challenging for a goalie that way. But I think. I don't know. I think if you have a legit starter and legit backup, which is also a question for a coaching staff, if you have that, I think, 50, 60 starts for a starter. If you have a legit starter and legit backup, would be totally fine, in my opinion. If they can do it. But also you have to know if you have a backup ready to play, twice a month or 3 times a month. That's also a tough situation to do, because you need those points. Even though people, obviously looking at the starter, sometimes when the starter's getting a rest, you need those points with the backup goalie needs to step in the game and win the games. Maybe that 2-4 points going to be a difference maker, making a playoffs or getting a home ice and not, so it's a very, very important role.
How much does the injury conversation come into that? As we kind of saw the Avs of the last handful of years, Pavel Francouz's hips at the end just couldn't do it anymore. Is there a lot of injury prevention work done as a goaltender in the NHL, or is it just kind of vary from goalie to goalie?
Definitely, I think the not just hockey, but also everything else from athletic therapists and to everything else to the strength coaches, like obviously moving higher, and the level is different. The knowledge is, we have more knowledge than we ever had before, but it also goes physically to individual. Certain people are more prone to an injury, certain people are not. It comes from your own body, kind of genetics sometimes that plays the role too, especially goaltenders as a position. It's not natural for goaltenders and for humans to do the stuff we do with the knees and hips. That it's a lot of wear and tear. We're not designed to do that. That's why, staying on top of it, being professional, understanding your body, which is very important, knowing what to do, how to do it. It's important, especially with hips. You see it all the time right now. You have Pavel Francouz, you have Demko had some problems with the hips and everything else. And I don't know, like I'm looking at it from point of view of me personally, being 20 years ago when I got in the NHL, like it definitely seems that these kids are more prone to injuries than they used to be. The question, the question people are asking, why is that? Is it a different training, or is it more, the game is faster, the gear and everything else? And there's so many questions. In my opinion, if I can give it, I have 2 young boys. They play hockey. They're young kids. They don't play goalie. They play forward, but they do too much hockey. They do too much hockey at the young age. So by the time they hit 18, 19, 20, their bodies are pretty having a wear and tear, and they're like 25, 26, 27. So, it's 12 months of a year sport now. Like every kid, season stops for the young kids at age, at month like May or in March, season's done. But they all do tournaments, they all do coaches, they all do camps. Literally, I don't even think there's maybe a handful of kids that literally for at least a month don't touch the skate. If you go around the hockey world and you see AAA players, and I asked my goalies, like I was helping out Okanagan, I was doing some stuff. I'm like, hey, when is the last time did you take 4 weeks completely off of hockey? And they're like, what? Why would I do that? I'm like, no, but like, why would you do that? Like, when is the last time you did it? It's like, no, but like, I can't fall behind. And it's the pressure that these organizations and these are, I wouldn't say even USA Hockey, I would say like organization around, like, Brick Team and Selects teams and all that stuff. And feels great for parents. And I don't know, is it really great for our kids? I think that the question we don't really ask that much, because I think taking a month off completely skating, it's crucial for an athlete to stay healthy. Do other sports, take completely off skating, get your mind completely off. And I think it's parents get under pressure from other parents because they're doing, savior skating coach that can make your guy an NHL player, and they all fall into this trap. And I always say, like, why is your son skating 6-7 times a week for almost 12 months straight? It's ridiculous amount. That's a ridiculous amount of time. So it doesn't matter how good you are, you're gonna get wear and tear.
Yep. Well, always a good thing to keep in mind your health and taking time off. And when you're spending that time at the beach, make sure you're wearing your Shady Rays. Go get your Shady Rays at shadyrays.com. Use code DNVR when you sign up to get 35% off any pair of polarized sunglasses from them. They've been given 5 stars by over 300,000 people, so you'll find a pair you like of their hundreds of choices over at Shady Rays. Of course, when you get over there, you can get a great deal. I guess it's not really a deal. It's just their policy. When you get a pair of sunglasses, if you don't like them, you lose them or you break them in the first 30 days, you can get a new pair replaced completely for free. So go give them a try today. ShadyRays.com, that DNVR code to get 35% off your order of any polarized sunglasses. And once you got your Shady Rays on, make sure you're hitting up Bet365. Get your bets on. The Olympics is over, so you can't bet on that anymore. But it's already football season. Maybe you're a believer in Bo Nix and want him to be Rookie of the Year, something like that. You can bet on it with Bet365. Use the DNVR365 code when you sign up with Bet365. Bet $5 on anything, and you get $150 in bonus bets when you do. So jump on that with Bet365 or the DNVR365 code. And when you gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast here with Peter Budaj. Eric, I know you got a couple of questions for him, so go for it.
Oh, yeah. And first of all, for chat, Boots' kids are awesome. Peter and Mikey are great kids. And, oh, my God, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Great people, first and foremost, but great hockey players, too. So I'm going to ask you right away, as a kid, and this is a big question, why the OHL as a Euro goalie? You know what I mean? Why did you say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go in the OHL, which is, not a very familiar path, especially back then, and then, so tell us the story a little bit.
Yeah, so the way I got scouted to go to OHL draft and everything else was kind of funny. We were doing this like a summer camp with a U16 Slovakian team, and we were in the same town when U18 had a few games against Canada, 3 games against Canada, just the friendly games and everything else. And one of the U18 goalie got hurt. The other one didn't play well, and the coach was kind of a old school, and he got really mad that they're getting shellacked. So he went to U16 and said, "We need a goalie." Because one of our guys got hurt, we need to have an next one there. So I went there, I practiced with them one day, and he told me, he's like, "Hey, look, like you have a very like a North American style of playing the game. I want you to play." And I'm like, "Really?" So I was like 2 years younger, and I was supposed to play, and we got shelled. We lost 5-0. They had Zigomanis. They had a really good team. They had a lot of NHLers on the team, but they had 48 shots on net. So, it was a good game for me, and I was excited. And after the game, one of the scouts went to my parents, which they didn't speak English. My dad has a broken English. My mom doesn't speak it. And he said, like, "Hey, does your son wants to get drafted to OHL? Do you have an agent?" I'm like, "No, we don't." So he gave me the number for my agent, Roland Hedges. I don't think he does agency anymore. And he was a small guy. With the number of people that he has, and I stayed with him throughout my career. But he basically said, "I'm going to be in a draft and see if I get drafted." And then I got drafted second round. I was originally supposed to go to Kingston, but it didn't take me. Toronto, St. Michael's took me, and then the big question comes: am I going to move to Canada? I was 16 turning 17. I was a young kid. It's a tough one, back then, no cell phones, you go. You can't just say, "Mom, I feel sad. Can you come help me spend some time?" It wasn't like that. My parents didn't have money to fly over and just, hold my hand, so if I decide to go, I do. So I went to ask a couple other guys that they took the similar route. They were playing either in WHL or, and they basically said, like, you want it, it's a great stepping stone for you to get used to smaller ice. different mentality of the players, and get ready to, if you want to hope see if you can get drafted to the NHL and if you can work on your career. And I think it was a huge step for me because I realized that the game is very different in North America. Even back then, there's huge difference between North American style of play and European style of play. And, getting used to small ice, more frequent shots, a very different mentality around the net, very different mentality of is a 2-on-1, 3-on-2 power play, attacks from the corner, all those little things that some goalies when they come here later for like maybe an American Hockey League or East Coast from Europe, they have to have like a year or two to get used to it. Justus, perfect example. He had to get used to it first year. It was a big step for him, and the game is different. So yeah, that's why I decided to go this way, and I think it was the right path. But it took a lot of kind of like researching and talking to people that went through a similar route because, as I said, I couldn't go back to my parents and, once I'm there, I'm there. I gotta battle it out.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm trying to go back though. In Hershey, was that Fixie coaching or that was Fixie, right?
Well, Mike Foligno was first, and then Fixie after.
Yeah. You had Mike first, okay, and then who was with you again? It was
Phil Solvay was first goalie that I had.
And that's right.
Me, and then I had Tom Lawson.
Tommy Lawson. That's
Tommy
right.
Law Dog. The Law Dog, yeah.
The Law Dog. All right. I just remember. I didn't remember if I saw Phil the other day, so I was wondering if you played with Phil. So that's great. You had a bit of an older guy than with you, and then what was your? If I'm gonna quiz you, like favorite Avalanche game that you played in, that you took part of.
There were a couple. The couple were the one that obviously stood out was my first ever NHL game. It was something very, very special. I was with David Abisher. David Abisher was a starter, and we had a back-to-back nights. We started the season one in Edmonton, and we go straight to Dallas right after, and we lost in Edmonton, I think 5-3. And I didn't expect to play. I thought like the first couple of few games gonna go to Abby, and Joel Quinville Q was my coach and says you're playing the next game. I'm like, whoa. So going to Dallas, they have Mike Modano, they have Zubov, they have Marty Turco. They have a solid team. So I'm like, oh, okay. So end up working out. We won 3-1. So it was a very good experience. It's kind of funny while I'm talking about it, like I kind of started remembering even the goals that I got scored on or the saves that I made. It's kind of funny that they sometimes kind of like come back to your mind. So that one was very special. And I think my first shout out was against Calgary. So that was big too. But I don't think anything trumps the first moment that you actually, even the game that I didn't play, the first regular season game when I was on the bench too was really special. When I'm dressing room, putting the jersey on with my name on it, kind of very surreal moment when you realize the people that help you to get there, sacrifice they've made. Obviously you make too, but your sacrifice, I think it's secondary to people that sacrifice for you because they're not there but you are. I mean, you're doing sacrifice for yourself, they're doing sacrifice for somebody else. That was very special for me, so that was cool.
I got a question I ask every goalie we have on the show. Is there a player that had your number when you were playing, and is there a player that you felt like you always made the save against when you were playing?
No such a thing that I always make a save. I think that's a tough thing. The league is really good. I know certain players, that stood out. They're just amazing. I think I always enjoy playing against very like the top players. I think that's why you play the game. That's why you're a professional athlete, because you like that challenge. You don't like to go to the gym and lift weights that you know that you can lift. You want to lift the weights that you know that you struggle with. So I think that, you know, like Pavel Datsuk was amazing. You know, Lidstrom, Modano. I mean, I was very fortunate that Joe Sakic was on my team. Yeah, I wouldn't want to face him if I play against him. That would be a nightmare. You know, he was a nightmare in practice because his shot and it's just, you know, I know people talk about his shot all the time, but it is so unique that it's so hard to learn. You know, a lot of guys, a lot of kids. I always tell my kid, you know, I show him the tapes from Joe. Look at him shooting. Look at it's just so hard to mimic that. I'm sure Eric can back me up on that. It's just it's insane. And I think a few years back, Joe put a you know, he was, I think, getting ready for you know, the series in, I think, that Detroit versus Colorado at the, you know, Rocky Stadium. And I think he went on the ice, and I talked to Pavel Francouz, and he put 5 pucks, you know, on his like top of the circles, and he said, "I'm going to score 3 goals." And you know, Pavel Francouz is like, "Yeah, okay, well, okay, but you're not playing anymore." And Pavel Francouz told me, and I told him too, like, it's like you can't read his shot. You don't know where it's going. Like, it's so crazy that, you know, sometimes, you know, goalies after, you know, a few years with the experience, like, you start reading the, you know, the release, you start reading the body language, you start reading the wrist action, the blade and everything else, you know. But with Joe, it just seems like, oh, there's no way he can go there. Like, and boom, he goes there, and it's a bullet. So it's very hard to read. So I'm so happy that he didn't play against me. So I was able to just, you know, work on that release in a practice, which doesn't, it matters, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, but I always like to, there was no such a player that I would have his number, but I'm sure there's some guys that would have my number. I don't really probably remember it, but that's how it is.
Short-term goalie memory on those ones for sure.
Absolutely clear the blackboard, erase it. Don't think about it.
This more from your playing time in Montreal, but I'm sure it's a story you've told before. The Ned Flanders mask. I gotta know, how did that come about?
Well, funny, the Ned Flanders, it's coming from Terry Gear. He was equipment manager, assistant equipment manager in Colorado.
Yeah.
So when I first got to the NHL, you know, they told me, it's like, hey, you can paint your mask. It's great. What are you gonna put on? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think I'm a superstitious person. I think I have a routine. Everybody does, but I think superstition.
Yeah, Eric tells me that every day too. Sure.
Yeah. There is a difference. There is a big difference. But long story short, Terry said, like, hey, put Ned Flanders on it. I'm like, who the heck is Ned Flanders? I don't know. I never watched Simpsons. I never knew what it was. And he just said, like, you know, the reason why I put Ned Flanders is because you're always, you know, you're excited. You know, I'm Christian, so that obviously probably had something to do with it. But also, it's like you're always happy. You always have a smile on your face. You always have a good energy. So then I told my painter to put it on, and it kind of stuck with me. You know, I never truly watched Simpsons or kind of like wanted to be like that guy or something. I didn't even know who he was. Like, I had to actually look it up. So it was kind of funny. So Terry Gear was the one that mentioned it, and it just stuck with me.
A question, like, quickly, like, on just to go back a little bit with the Eagles this year, like, you know, when you're a goalie, put yourself in the mind of a goalie. Like, there's a little crowded crease. You know, there's like Trent Miner trying to make some room, right? Trying to find a net somewhere. And then they go and sign like 2-3 more guys. Like, how hard is it to stay mentally sharp and then just worry about your own space, you know, and try to get some starts? And even though you do the math, it doesn't add up. It's like, holy crap, it's crowded. You know, how hard is that? Like, you know, like in a short answer, like, because I'm curious. Obviously, the NHL, it's Georgie and Justus, and then after that, it's a little crowded.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that's a difficult question, not just for goalies, for players, but from a goaltending point of view, there's only one net, right? So it's very difficult to when you, and any goalie who tells you that doesn't think about it's a liar, in my opinion, because we all do think about it. We all care. We all want to play. We all want to be the guy. But I think the big thing is that I learned at the end of my career, which, you know, I hope that players can learn it easier and faster. And, you know, it's easier said than done, but try to control controllables and not focus on not controllables. Certain things you cannot control. And, it's a cliche. People heard it all the time, but it is very, very true. The moment you are able to and have an ability to kind of like push that outside noise away and just focus on whatever it is, if it is playing 20 games, playing 50 games, playing one game, going to East Coast, you cannot control if if you move, if you're playing or not. Once you're playing, that thing you can control. Your practices and your attitude, your dedication to the team. Being a good teammate goes a long ways. I learned that the hard way personally. I got sent down to minors in Montreal after I got played Montreal. I played NHL for 8 years. Got sent to minors to St. John's, Newfoundland, the farm team of Winnipeg Jets. They trade me, and they sent me down. And it was my worst year of hockey that I've ever played. And it wasn't because I wasn't working hard. I was never a slacker. I enjoyed the game too much not to work hard. But it was my mindset. I was going online, looking up what the other guys are doing, seeing why they're not calling me up. And I lost focus on the presence, the moment that I was in. I won 0 games that year. Like I won 0 games in 22 starts.
Hold on, hold on 1 second, because I know Rio's gonna jump in. But I want to talk about this because I that was really important, knowing that you were coming on the show. I'm really interested in this answer, and then if you have a few more minutes,
Oh yeah, I do. I'm fine.
Okay, perfect. So
fine.
Rio, go ahead, but I want to get back to that because that's important.
0 wins is tough. Make sure you don't end up with 0 wins when you're hiring. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Join over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. You can ditch all the busy work with Indeed. You can do your scheduling, screening, and messaging through Indeed so you can connect with all of those candidates. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/ALLCITY. Just go to Indeed.com/ALLCITY. Let them know this podcast sent you over there. So, give us a little bit of credit. Give us our win on that one. That's Indeed.com/ALLCITY. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And once you've been hired, maybe celebrate with a Coors Light. I don't know if the goalies celebrated with a Coors Light after some wins in hockey. I know I've heard a couple of stories from Eric about a few beers after some games. So get yourself a Coors Light if you need to chill. It's the beer literally made to chill. The mountains turn blue right there on the can or the bottle. Brewed right here in Golden, Colorado. You got to go check them out. If you haven't heard of Coors Light, I don't know. Have you been living under a rock? I don't know how you existed, but maybe you haven't heard that you can get it delivered right to your front door with CoorsLight.com/DNVR. Thanks to Instacart. You don't even have to get up off the couch now to get your Coors Light to your house. Of course, when you do drink, please drink responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Go ahead, Eric. And
yeah, Boots, I'm so pumped you brought that up because I wanted to bring this up because I lived it. After 8 years, 9 years in the NHL, whatever it was, I was a free agent and I was not getting any offers that summer. And, not the right time to become a free agent when you have shitty 4 years in a row, but whatever. Hey, it is what it is. And then, so I was looking for a job, and the only things I could get were some contracts, or two-way contracts, which I knew back then at the time, because the waivers, the way they were done, I was going in the minors. And you know what? I looked at my wife, I didn't feel I had the capacity, the energy to get myself back on track and to overcome not just the mental part of it, but the overall thing about, hey, I'm going to make my way back, even though I didn't go compared to you, in the minors. I just felt I'm going to end up in the minors, and I don't think I'll be able to get out of it because it's a deep hole after so many years. So my question to you, going back to what you were just talking about, and then keep going at what you were saying, is I think it's amazing how you ended up. It's a remarkable story. It's one of the greatest stories in goaltending the last 10 years or whatever it is, when you go back and obviously leads you to Ontario and then leads you to your run in LA there, where you basically saved their season. So I just want to hear what you did when you were in St. John's and you're like, okay, how do I get back? How do I do this?
Yeah, so St. John's is a it's a rock, right? Like it's a tough place as it is, and
I played 2 years there, buddy. 2 years
yeah,
there.
yeah,
I played 2 years.
a unique place. But you know what? I enjoyed my time. I didn't enjoy my time because I wasn't playing well. But that is purely was my fault. It was purely my fault. Yeah, maybe I didn't get the bounces. The last game of the season, we're going to overtime. I can get literally, coach. We didn't make playoffs. I was playing with Connor Hellebuck, who was playing really good. So we become friends with Helly, but he, he's putting me in because we're not making playoffs. We're done. So the team really, like, played hard in front of me, and then we're going 2-2, going to overtime. The last minute of the overtime that I can get my one win. That's one of the bounces, right? Like just the way the season goes. It was 2-on-1. Pass. The guy tried to pass across, hit our defenseman's skate, went right through my 5-hole, maybe like a mile an hour shot. Like it was just tough. But it was my mindset and it was my mental aspect of the game that I was struggling with. I was thinking too much about going somewhere where I wasn't, and I was focusing on that instead of taking American Hockey League as my NHL, and just let God do what I gotta do, and let me just work and play and be thankful that I was in minors. I wasn't thankful for being in minors. I know it sounds weird. I know it doesn't. It sounds complacent, but it's not. It's not complacent when you're thankful where you are. That's how you grow, because you're putting everything into it. Because if I'm thankful that I'm somewhere, I'm going to put all my effort into what I'm doing. If I'm not thankful where I'm at, I'm going to be looking everywhere else, and my energy is going to be split. My focus is going to split. And for a goaltender, if your focus is split during the game, you're not winning. You're barely surviving, if that. So that was the tough part. And then after the year, that was my contract year. How about that, Eric? Yeah. So that I had zero wins.
You and me.
0 wins my contract year. So I talked to my agent, and my agent basically said, you know what, that there's not many offers. There's not many offers for two-way deals. Like I didn't get an offer for a two-way deal. And I was like, okay, well, then I talked to my wife and we talked about it. I mean, like that could be it. Maybe I have to start looking, potentially go to Europe or something, or maybe down. I don't know. And then my agent said basically, hey, why don't you go try to go to LA, as a walk-on, and see if they just like try out, And I look at their roster. They just won a Stanley Cup 2 years ago. They literally won Calder Cup with Manchester. They were stacked. And I told him, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, this is like literally putting myself to fail. And he's like, they are willing to give you a tryout. Why don't you go try it and just take it? Take it. This could be the last time that you are going to put on in this whole NHL, life on pads, and just go. And, I was, I pray about it, and I was literally just enjoying the moment that I'm in an NHL dressing room, enjoying the moment that, I'm going on the ice with these guys. And I never felt no stress that was on me. Like I never felt that stress sometimes that you have to perform. I just played. Again, and everything fell into place. Like I had a good camp, they signed me up for a PTO in the minors. And then one goalie, first practice, got hurt. He got a shot in his hand and tore his ligament. And they had to go with me. So I start playing, and I start winning. And I just played. I didn't think about, now because I won one game and I had one shutout that I'm going to just go back to NHL. I never crossed my mind compared to the year in St. John's, where every single time they had a good practice, I thought they're going to call me up, which was completely ridiculous. And I hope that people that listen to it, or players or people in general, like it's a life lesson. It's not just a lesson of goaltending. It's a life lesson, in my opinion, that they can learn from me and my mistakes. Like don't let yourself, don't lose the moment that you're in. Doesn't matter how bad of the moment it is, how good of a moment it is. Enjoy it, because it goes by fast. And that's what I did. And I went literally from 0 to 42 wins. And people ask me, just like Eric, like how how did you, like, what did you do? What did you change? Did you have a different strength coach, different skill coach? Did you have different try? And I said, no, I didn't. I'm exactly same person, same goalie, maybe more experience, but 1 year more experience than last year, but same. They couldn't believe. Yeah, like the team was better. Obviously, the team was really good, but I was just able to play, and my goalie coach Dusty Emu was there with me, and he really was really good. Get me mentally ready for the game. He knew he had a great feel for when to push a guy and when to just like relax, just go and play. And he had a good feel of that, and really helped me to get my mind straight and just go out there and play. And I was able to go back to NHL and play 1, 2, 3, 4 more years. So it was just incredible, and I was very, very thankful for it. It's a cool story, but again, there's a lot of people that helped me. My parents were behind me. My wife, obviously my coaches. So I just, it was just a great story. And looking back, it's just almost surreal right now. When I look back, I'm like, man, I don't know how I had the power to just go back to minors, go back to tryout, and just keep going. But it was just, the passion of the game. I really wanted to just play goaltender, be a goaltender. I think it's just so incredible. So I was just so thankful for that.
2 more questions for you, and then I'll let you go. One, did you ever score a goal as a goalie at any point in your career?
No, I tried. I didn't try it. I didn't try it in NHL. So funny story. I had a coach, Dave Cameron, in St. Michael's Majors. He coached World Juniors, but he was with us. And of my second year, and I had a good year going, and I was playing a game where we're up 2-1. I have a really good game going, and I decided I'm going to try to score. So terrible dump, not a goalie shooting dump at all. Kind of like a stupid play by me. And I grabbed it, shot it, obviously hit the forechecker in the shin pad, hit the post. The puck didn't go in. We end up winning 2-1. I got to dressing room, and I never forget about this. And we were excited, guys. The music is pumping, and guys are excited we won. And I'm excited and smiling and giggling. Guys are giggling. And he walked into me straight in front of everybody. He's like, "Are you a scorer?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Then do your job." He's like, "You had a good game today." He's like, "You had a good game, but you're not here to score a goal." And it made me think about it. I mean, it's always cool when a goalie scored, but are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for the team? Sure. That's the question I always have. It's the same with Michigan. Michigan, in my opinion, I'm a big not believer in Michigan. I actually have to say, because I'm a goalie.
Spoken like a goalie, yeah, exactly.
I can't stand it. Are you doing it on a name on the back or logo in front? That's the question I have, because we play team sport. You do tennis, you do whatever you want. You're on your own. Yep. But you're playing hockey, you're team sport. There's 20 other guys on the ice there. There's not 100 in the stands and the staff that are there for you to help you win a game. And then you do something like this. So coach was basically, he learned me, and I love Dave. He's awesome. And he taught me. He's like, hey, just think about it. Are you here for scoring? Are you negotiating contract with a 50 goal scorer, and you needed 50 to get a better contract? No, you didn't, because I'm not a scorer. So it was a funny story. It was really good. So I never tried since. I literally never tried. Never ever. Every time I wanted to, that thing just literally popped in my head. It's like, oh gosh, no. Let's just rim it out. Let's just pass it to the D and let them score a goal.
And then lastly for me, you and Jaro Halak, the only 2 Slovakian goalies to play a full season in the NHL. Is there any particular time from your NHL career that you're most proud of?
There's a couple. I think being able to obviously to come back to NHL was huge. Kind of sad story. My best friend Marek Svatos, we grew up together, and we spent a lot of time together. We lived together. I know him since he was 7 years old. He passed away, and on the day he passed away, it was my game in LA, and we were able to win 2-0. That was cool. and it was nice. But then, my last game in Ontario, when I was in minors, was really cool too. Like they did a great job. Like the team and the kids and the teammates did a great job. The organization did awesome too. So those are cool moments that always gonna stick with me. Having my kids there too, with my wife. Obviously, it's big. So yeah, there's a lot of. I think it's very hard. This question is always asked to people, and I think people always ask, like, what is your favorite moment? I think it's the overall just being a part of being NHL, being a part of playing the best league in the world, and having the privilege, to be there, and just great moments, great memories. They're gonna stick forever, and I'm just very very thankful for that.
Well, to close it up, you're speaking to the choir. You're back in the NHL. That's where you belong, and I know you're gonna enjoy every moment. And good friend there. Great guy, Greg Cronin. Obviously familiar territory for you. So, best of luck there. We'll be watching the Anaheim Ducks and Lucas Dostal, and we'll be rooting for you on quietly there, Rudo and I and Megan and Adrian. And thanks for being here today. You were awesome. So
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Anytime. This was my pleasure. This was awesome.
Appreciate you. When the Ducks drop 6 on the Avs, I'm blaming you for giving them all the Avs secrets. So
I don't care. I just want to win 2-1. Having a close game, a goaltender win the game, and we're fine.
thank you again. We appreciate you coming on. If there's anything you want to shout out, go for it, and we'll get you out of here.
Thank you very much. This is awesome. I enjoy listening to you guys. I listened to you before, so thanks for having me.
Appreciate it again. Peter Budaj, former Avalanche goaltender, Avalanche organizational coach, and now goalie coach for the Anaheim Ducks. We do have to get into our next set of ad reads here. So we are, of course, brought to you by the folks over at Raising Cane's. If you need to get yourself some chicken fingers, go with Raising Cane's. They're the best chicken fingers around, and their sauce is to die for. You gotta go with them just for the sauce, to be honest. Even if you're not a big chicken fingers person, the Raising Cane sauce, it's just better. I don't know what other way to put it other than it's just better. So get over to Raising Cane's today. Of course, whatever you want to order, the chicken fingers, the Texas toast, the coleslaw, whatever you might like with Raising Cane's. For cook to order hand battered chicken fingers, race into Raising Cane's, turbocharge your chicken fingers, and you can get them even faster by ordering online at raisingcanes.com or through their mobile app. Raising Cane's chicken fingers, one love. And once you got your chicken fingers, make sure you're getting yourself ready to go out on the river or maybe the park or wherever you might be going with Rugged Road. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. No matter where you end up going, maybe the coolest thing about the Rugged Road cooler, it floats. So you literally just strap that thing to your inner tube and you just float down the river with your cooler full of beer or whatever it might be. So jump on it with Rugged Road. Get ready for your summer adventures and head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DNVR for 10% off your order today. They're lightweight, durable, and always floating upright, perfect on land or in water. So leave that old heavy cooler at home and get yourself a better cooler for the new season. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Last period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. Eric, what is it about goalies? What's the special thing that they have to be able to face thousands and thousands of pucks?
Yeah, and Boots is such an interesting character. You know what I mean? It really is. And I always say, like, you got to be crazy to be a goalie. When I say crazy, is you got to be nuts. Like, who wants to go in front of 100-mile-an-hour like piece of rubber, galvanized rubber? I know you got gear, I know you got all that stuff, but you got to be a little strange. Like, you got to be a little different, and that's why I think the term goalies are different. You know what I mean? And but I think it's like maybe it was back then. Nowadays, I don't know. I've met a lot of goalies that are like Boots or my son Max. I mean, it's easy. Jiggy, J.S. Shiger. I mean, there's a lot of goalies that, they're just, sometimes they're smart and sometimes they're not like just different, It's just their position is different. Their position is they're by themselves. They dress differently, right? There's only two of them that dress that way. Everybody else dresses, I'm talking about on the ice, different gear. One's on the bench, one's in the net. They can't relate to other guys. They can't, in their profession, meaning they don't really know. It's just so different. And I think that's why I think where the league is going right now with all those goalie coaches / goalie, like umbrellas, and like it's not so like, oh, okay, our assistant coach can be the goalie coach too because he was a former goalie. He can talk to the goalies. It's more like it's an important position. It's different, and I think you have to surround them right. And if you surround them right, you're going to get the results. I mean, I just look at Bobrovsky in Florida the last couple seasons, and again, he was shit out of luck. He couldn't freaking play anymore. You know what I mean? It's a lot like, in a sense, like Boods was talking about. A lot of it is mental. You know what I mean? A lot of it is you're not a different goalie. You're just not in the right place, and we all know that, all of us, in any facts of life. If you're not sharp, if you're not on top of things, if you're not clear-minded, then you don't get results. And those guys, it's just that there's nobody else on the team that's got a W or a loss next to their record, right? It's just, as forward, it tells you goals and assists. But this is like, you're really judged on wins and losses, and that's what a team is judged on, is wins and losses. And, so it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of responsibilities, and a lot falls on their shoulders, and you got to be able to shoulder it. And then I think Boots, for example, showed it today, like a kid that wanted to be a number one and, didn't pan out to be a number one. Then he has to go down. Then he comes back. He's like, okay, I'll be the best, backup I can be. And, he was unbelievable. And nice guys don't finish last. You know what I mean? Nice guys do finish first a lot of times. And Boots was a great example. And goalies are, like you said, they're so fascinating stories. You know what I mean? Not that forwards or Ds don't have stories like that. It's just that those guys really have to fight for it. Yeah, there's less goalies than players, but there's a lot less nets too. And you got to find a net, and it doesn't matter where it is. And like Boots said, you gotta fight for it, and then don't worry about where you can be. And he was talking about St. John's, and
Yep.
he's looking at guys in the NHL, and he's like, oh, God, I just want to be there. And it's amazing when you just live in the moment and you get results. And he's a perfect example, and a great person, great family guy, and great teammate. He's one of the best teammates ever, at the Avalanche ever. I bet you he'd get a lot of votes. If you ask anybody that's ever, put on an Avalanche sweater and say, hey, who's your favorite team? I bet you he'd be up there.
Yep. We can wrap up today's show with some of the news from yesterday. Two real notes that we haven't touched on. One, the Nashville Predators flip Cody Glass to the Pittsburgh Penguins, or really dump him to the Pittsburgh Penguins. They also give him a third and a sixth. Cody Glass, $2.5 million cap hit for this year. Move is what it is. The interesting part to me is it kind of sets the market for those cap dump type of moves. Obviously, there's been some conversation of, do the Avs look to free up some cap space in certain different ways? It's not going to be cheap as far as assets the Avs might have to give up if they're trying to just get rid of a contract.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sets the market, and like you said, and then sometimes the market goes away and somebody else sets the market differently. So maybe you're hoping that they set the market a little differently, because this one, I mean, to go back to Glass, though, I mean, it just hasn't, I like him. I've always liked him. Is that Mikko's year, Glass? Is that Mikko?
Year.
Oh, that's Kale's year, yeah.
Pretty sure. He was the 6th overall, in Kale's year.
Isn't he? He's the Vegas first. Correct. It was Suzuki, Glass, Brandstrom, actually.
Yep.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the same timeline as Brandstrom. So it's not easy to be an NHL player. It's not easy to become an NHL full-time player. I've always felt that he got lost in the shuffle a little bit. I expected bigger things from him. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it was Vegas and it was their first ever pick. And but all of a sudden he comes and finds a different role in Nashville. So now he's going to be on his third team. Is that his third? Did he come Vegas?
Is it his third or his fourth? I think there might be one other.
His fourth, yeah. There might be. Am I missing one?
Let's see.
Yeah, I might be missing one,
No,
but again, it's
at least at the NHL
there's
level,
three.
that was all. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they ended up in the minors, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But who knows? Was it last year on that TV show that were following him around? I grew to like him a little bit. I thought it was cool when there was a moment that he was that he was going to start the season there. So it was cool. He seems like a nice person. You're right. Pittsburgh seems like they're you know they're trying to figure it out what they're going to do. You know what I mean? How they're going to turn things around a little bit and get back to, again, you got Sid, you got Gino, you got Letang, you got, and those guys are getting old. I mean, I don't, again, if Pittsburgh was, their plan was going to be a non-playoff team, then Sidney Crosby would have been traded by now. I mean, let's face the facts, right? I mean, I don't think he would be like, oh, okay, I'm okay with going through a rebuild, So obviously they must have some plans for him, and we'll see what happens. God, we just had Quinny on. We could ask Quinny, but
I don't know
too
that
late now.
Cody Glass is the answer for them, but they're trying. The other piece of news: Austin Matthews named the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, cool. You just swapped the letter from one guy's jersey to another, really. I don't know that makes that much of a difference, if I'm being honest, but it's a thing.
I agree with you. It's a thing. Maybe I'll make people mad here on chat. Like here's what I think of captaincy. Like, I like it. I think I do believe if you have a leadership group that's very solid, it's a lot better than if you have a good captain and he has nobody around them. I mean, I think it's a letter first and foremost. I think it's great for the team picture. Like you got the captain, and I'm downplaying it a little bit. What I'm saying is it's very important to have a leadership group. It's very important to have a captain. Now, if you switch from one guy of the leadership group to another, I don't think it really changes much internally in the locker room. Read between the lines. Tavares is going into what is last year now, or whatever. Again, basically they're saying, without saying it. Again, that's what I'm reading into it. Like, oh, you're not coming back here, So, and if you are coming back, it will be on a different type of deal. And this is we don't have plans for you for the future. That kind of what it says. And I think as a player, sometimes where you stand as well, and it is okay. I mean, over the years, you've seen Kopitar, right? Brown give it to Kopitar because they want something changing there. I don't think they're saying Tavares did a bad job. I've never heard bad things about him. So I think they were saying more like, hey, this is our guy that scored, 60-something butts last year. And
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then, this is our guy, and this is who's going to be here for the long run, longer than probably you. And it might have come from him too. I mean, we don't know that. Yeah. It might have come from him. They went to see Brad, and he's like, hey, listen, I think it's time. I've seen it. Like I said, I've seen it before too. And what is it, Rangers or Edmonton? Lee Fogelin was there, and he's like, hey, listen, this Wayne Gretzky guy, he should be the guy. We all know he's going to be.
Hejduk to Landeskog. It's
Hedgie to Landy, same thing. I'm trying to remember if it was Hedgie that brought it up or we approached him. I don't remember, but you know what I mean. I think it just makes sense sometimes. If you're looking at the news from today, then it just makes sense. I think it makes sense. Now, do I think it's going to change all of a sudden, like the way they operate or the way their locker room is, or no? I mean, you're part of the leadership group. If you got to do something or talk about something, it doesn't matter if you're the C or an A, and you're part of the leadership group. You're going to make it happen. It's not like you're going to, I'm going to wait till I'm the captain to say this. So, it doesn't exist. And that's why I say it's overblown a little bit. But hey, good on Matthews and all good.
McKinnon's certainly not afraid to speak his mind wearing an A on that jersey. So
yeah, I don't think he'd be like, excuse me, I don't have a C. I don't have a C, but I'm going to raise my hand. I'm going to talk. I mean, it is what it is. It's overblown in that sense a little bit sometimes.
For sure. I tend to agree. But that is all the time we have for today. But we will be back tomorrow. We're power ranking the top 10 teams in the NHL. So should be a fun one. I'm sure we'll all have exactly the same list, and it won't be a fight to the death about which is the 10th best team in the NHL at all. That definitely won't happen. So we hope to see you there. Until then, we'll talk to you on the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.